Capacitors for HVAC use or heating and air conditioning use, namely residential, some commercial applications. Question, if one reaches over here and say accidentally touches one of these prongs with their finger, or this prong, question, what would it do? And that's a loaded question. So now, personally, from empirical wisdom, namely last night, I touched a round capacitor, and when I did, I picked it up and I accidentally touched one of the leads, so to speak, and it only took me a few seconds to drop it, as it felt like I got a good nasty shock, as if it ran up my hand pretty quick. It didn't take long to turn loose of the capacitor. So the question is, after these capacitors have been used, once the capacitor has been used at this particular point, this thing needs to be discharged. And the way to discharge this capacitor is simply to cross it over. And they make a little tool, but you need to cross over all the leads and to make sure that it discharges. And be sure to use an insulated screwdriver. And if you touch this lead and this lead, it should actually do it. So and do keep in mind, some of these capacitors are rated higher than others, so the higher the number, I'm not sure that would make a difference, but knowing electricity, it may. So and some of these capacitors say rated for like X amount of voltage, so that one's 370 or something, the dual run. I think I may be wrong on that. This one's rated for 440 volts, as you can see. So I'm not sure if it's the microfarads or the voltage that gets you. Maybe the HVAC guys can enlighten us here. But what I do know, and don't ask me how I know, is if you pick this up and you haven't crossed this over, boom, and you physically touch this lead here. When you touch this lead, you may get a shock. So be very careful. So, and again, these are two different kind of capacitors. They're both used in heating and air conditioning. Effectively, this capacitor here is really in this capacitor here, because this has a common Herm and a fan, and this is usually generally used on the fan side. So technically speaking, this is a dual run capacitor. This would be used for the fan and the compressor. But so once you've used these or take these off, be sure to use a and do this at your own risk, but be sure to take a rubber handle screwdriver and do not touch the metal and cross them over. Or they make a little tool you can probably get from the heating and air supply house to discharge these, and once they're discharged, then they should be de-energized. But if you do not let it, say if we wanted to discharge this one, we would touch this prong, and then hypothetically this prong, and then come over here and do this prong and this prong. Because if you do not do it, you may find this thing can hold, essentially what it does, it may hold electricity beyond being, it may be like a hypothetical, a storage area. Say you put your socks in a drawer, you're putting, say, electricity in here, and it's kind of storing electricity. And so then if you do not discharge the electricity, it has the ability to shock. And it did happen to me last night. So, and I'm not certain if I touched one prong and the HVAC guys, or if I ended up touching two prongs at one time. So basically, just be sure that you discharge discharge the capacitor before touching. Otherwise, you may be experience what I experienced last night. And believe me, it took about just about a few seconds to drop that capacitor. So anyway, hope this helps, and have a wonderful day.